The bitter scent of coffee lingered in Lara's small flat, her little sanctuary nestled in the bustling heart of a modest town. In her early 30s, Lara found herself standing at one of life's many crossroads, the kind society insists should already be neatly mapped out. But her path felt more like a labyrinth, twisting, unclear, and maddeningly circular. On the screen of her laptop, a motivational video flickered, promising the key to life's greatest mystery. Find your passion, follow your purpose, and happiness will follow. She sighed. Years of this search, living through self-help books, attending workshops, following self-styled gurus on social media had only widened the gap between her reality and the polished image of living with purpose. Yes, she was a talented graphic designer, but her job at a marketing agency left her hollow, a blur of logos and catchy slogans that echoed nothing of who she truly was. Creativity, once a blazing fire in her chest, now felt like a dying ember. A creeping sense of disconnection turned her life into a quiet, empty space. Did that mean her life had no worth? Often, at night, while the city drifted into slumber, she would sit by the window, watching the lights flicker from the few bars still open. She would wonder, what am I doing wrong? Why does everyone else seem to have a clear why, while I am still fumbling in the dark? Raquel had built a small business from her love of fabrics. Marco wandered the world with a laptop on his back, living out his dream of endless travel. Sofia spent part of each year on missions, building wells in remote corners of Africa, and she was trudging through barren land, still searching for her reason to be. One afternoon, just as she was leaving work, a sudden downpour engulfed the city. Caught without an umbrella, Lara dashed across the road and ducked into an old bookshop, a place she passed every day. The bell chimed softly as she stepped in. The scent of aged paper and brewing coffee wrapped around her like a forgotten memory, and oddly enough, it felt right. She wandered between floor-to-ceiling shelves, packed tightly with books. She was not looking for anything, just shelter from the rain. Glancing left, her gaze landed on a copy of Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. The title stopped her. She sought out a worn armchair tucked in the corner and began to read. Frankl's harrowing experiences in Nazi concentration camps bore a brutal contrast to her own notions of life's purpose. He did not speak of grand missions or destinies, but of a quiet, inner choice to find meaning even in the heart of unimaginable suffering. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how, she read. The words hit her like a silent thunderclap. But what if she had no clear why? Just then, a gentle, deep voice pulled her from her thoughts. "Hello, Lara." It was Leo, the bookshop's owner, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and a knowing smile. They had struck up a quiet friendship during her occasional visits. Leo was a lifelong reader and a silent observer of the human condition. "Hello, Leo," she replied, closing the book. "Do you believe in this whole life purpose thing, that grand mission we're all supposed to find?" Leo nodded slowly, his gaze calm and steady. "Lara, Society has sold us a rigid idea, a sort of epic treasure map we're meant to uncover. But life is more like a house you build brick by brick, without all the blueprints at the start. He leaned in slightly, his voice softening. Your worth does not depend on having a clear destination. Life can hold meaning even if you do not know exactly where you are headed. His words drifted in like a cool breeze through a room long closed. He told her that we all go searching for purpose at some point, and many of us end up questioning it all along the way. That some people might never be entirely sure they found their true path by the end of their lives. Only about half of us ever do, he said thoughtfully, and then added with a faint smile. That old saying, seek and you shall find, it only holds true about half the time. And just like that, something shifted in Lara. For the first time, she considered that not having a grand purpose might not be a failure at all, but simply a natural part of the journey. That thought alone allowed her to breathe a little easier. Leo continued, his voice reflective. You see, the trouble is, we think purpose has to be something vast, unique, almost magical. And while we wait for some great revelation, life just goes on. For me, Lara, the key lies in micro-purposes. That night, she did not turn on her laptop. She did not scroll endlessly through social media. Instead, she dug out an old sketchbook and began to write, not grand ambitions, just small actions, Leo's micro-purposes, journaling, helping someone, listening fully, caring for her body. They were simple, almost ordinary things, but the act of doing them with intention offered a new lens through which to see her life. In the days that followed, Lara began experimenting. Instead of hunting for a grand life mission, she focused on these small, meaningful acts. She would start with 5. The first micro-purpose came from her lifelong curiosity fostered since she was a child and still alive behind those bright green eyes. Each morning before work, she would learn one new thing, a word in Spanish, a historical fact, something about space, or the melting glaciers. Bit by bit, her gaze lifted from the pavement. She began to notice more, ask more, see the world and the people in it with new eyes. Her second micro-purpose was to create something that did not already exist. Not a client brief, but something just for her. She began doodling in her notebook with no goal but the pleasure of it. One day, while listening to an old song, the idea of writing her own floated into her mind. She had never written lyrics, never attempted poetry, much less a song. She jotted down a few shaky lines, hummed a clumsy melody. It was flawed, awkward, but it was hers. She sang it softly to herself and felt something shift. It did not need to be brilliant. It only needed to be. Her third micro-purpose was to be useful to another human being. It happened naturally. An elderly woman in her building, Doña Clara, always seemed to struggle with her shopping bags. One day, Lara offered to help. Doña Clara, surprised at first, accepted gratefully. As they climbed the stairs, the old woman told stories of her village, her youth, No remarkable feats, no drama, just memories. But her smile and the warmth in their brief connection filled Lara with a quiet joy. The fourth micro-purpose was to care for her body, not as a chore, but as something precious. This one was tougher. She had always eaten whatever was at hand. Cooking never appealed. Exercise was something she avoided religiously, but the idea of treating herself as worthy began to resonate. She started with 15-minute walks in the park, some light stretching. At first it felt like ticking boxes, but soon it became a ritual of peace, a chance to breathe the gift of trees. She even tried a guided meditation class on YouTube, tiny steps, but they gave her a sense of calm and control she had not felt in years. The fifth and final micropurpose became a nightly ritual documenting moments of meaning. Before bed, she would open her sketchbook and jot down anything that made her feel connected to herself. The first night, she simply wrote, "Today I learned the word purpose in Spanish, and I helped Doña Clara carry her shopping bags." It was a small note, but the accumulation of small intentional acts began to weave a new narrative into her life. These were the first steps of a path made not of certainty but of care. She began ending her days with gratitude for the bitter morning coffee, a stranger's smile, or simply the joy of feeling at home. The internal pressure to find a grand purpose did not vanish overnight, but it eased. She began to realize her worth did not depend on having all the answers. Lara was building her meaning, brick by brick, moment by moment. She was not lost. She was on her way. Weeks passed. The micro-purposes were no longer a checklist. They had become habits. Her job at the agency remained the same, but she was not. She approached her work with fresh curiosity. She sought out the human stories behind the brands, found tiny opportunities for creative spark, even in the mundane. That ember inside her once dim and smoldering began to glow again. One evening after work, Lara returned to the bookshop. The scent of old paper and warm coffee greeted her like an embrace. Leo stood behind the counter, nose buried in a book. "Leo," she said, her voice lighter than usual. He looked up with a smile. "Lara, how lovely to see you. On the hunt for a new literary quest?" "More like a personal one," she replied. "I wanted to tell you something. Do you remember what you told me about purpose?" "Of course. Have you found it?" he asked, already reaching for the coffee pot. Lara smiled widely. "No, Leo, not in the way I thought I would. But I have realized I do not need a sign from the heavens. I am the sign. I am building it step by step through small, steady acts. Those micro-purposes you spoke of. I have learned that life does not begin when you find your purpose. Life is what you do while you are still searching. When you rise each day, create something, offer kindness, and keep going. I do not need to live some grand adventure. A life lived with intention, moment by moment, that is enough." Leo nodded, eyes filled with quiet pride. "Exactly, Lara. Living with uncertainty does not mean being lost. It means moving forward with doubts, with fear, at your own pace. Because even a life without all the answers can be deeply, profoundly meaningful." Another click echoed inside her. She understood. Living itself was the purpose, to breathe, to feel, to walk without certainty, but with presence. Sometimes the greatest act of meaning is simply to be, and perhaps living fully had always been the one purpose waiting for her all along. See you in the next video. Thank you for being here. It has been a pleasure to connect with you. If this way of seeing the world resonates with you, subscribe, but not to follow me. Subscribe to follow yourself. Turn on notifications so we can connect again. Share this content with someone who is also ready to look within. My name is Lumina.